All right, so let's get started. I just want to say welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today's webinar. My name is Dwayne Sion, and I'm the marketing strategist for IS at SherWeb. So SherWeb is your one-stop shop for full integration of IT cloud solutions such as high-performance cloud servers, cloud databases, cloud PBX, hosted Exchange, Office 365, and other collaboration tools. Today, we're talking about how MSPs can make more money selling disaster recovery as a service, which will be presented by Erik Beauchamp from SherWeb and Justin Giroux from Veeam. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. I may bring them up during the presentation, and we'll definitely have a lot of time for questions at the end. So also at the end of this presentation, we'll be offering something special to all attendees, so please stay tuned and look forward to that. So today's webinar, how MSPs can make more money selling disaster recovery as a service, will cover how to profit from off-site backup and replication solutions. Also, ways you can reduce the overall on-premise IT infrastructure costs. And plus, you're going to see an amazing demo which show you how easy it is to use Veeam as a solution. And there's going to be so much more too. So with further ado, we'll turn over the time to our first presenter, Erik Beauchamp, who's the SherWeb product director for IS. He has extensive product management experience with cloud-based professional software. He's traveled across the US and Europe helping software and network monitoring companies, and he's done a great job with that, and we're so happy to have him with SherWeb. So Erik, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dwayne, for this intro, and welcome everyone to this joint SherWeb and Veeam webinar on disaster recovery as a service. So as part of the product team at SherWeb, I'm involved in a daily basis in sales conversations where MSPs are converting on-prem servers to cloud servers for their customers. So there's of course, huge traction with this motion, but at the same time, when it comes to SMBs, the share of on-prem servers and the fears of migration remain significant. So today, one of the key takeaways will be to see how cloud DR can easily unlock new types of opportunities for you, wherever your customers are currently on their cloud maturity journey. So in terms of the content that we'll be covering, and Dwayne, if you can move to the next one, please. So first, we'll look at some of the specific drivers, needs, and opportunities related to disaster recovery that we see on the market. Dwayne, can you move on the next slide, please? I have no control. Okay. Okay. Let me see, just a moment here, just a screen sharing issue. Change presenter. Erik. Okay. Can you put him back as a presenter? Thank you. Put Dwayne. All right, thank you, and sorry for this. So the topics we'll cover today, first of all, is on the drivers, the needs and opportunities that we see in the market. Then we'll see as an MSP, how on your side you should choose the right partner. What are the criteria for this? We'll go with a live demo from Justin directly in the tool. And then we'll have we'll complete with a brief description of the material and the promos available now to start reselling VCCR. And we'll have a Q&A session with technical experts from both SherWeb and Veeam. All right, so next slide, please. So we'll see that right now there's tons of statistics available already that you can see for the disasters and what are their consequences on businesses. So when you look at those numbers, such as 40% don't reopen, the thing to keep in mind is that this happens despite having backups or recovery in place. Way too often, there are manual processes for your backups that only cover subsets of the data, the systems or servers. And it's only when you use them for the first time that you see the flaws and what's missing. So when it happens, the clock is ticking, and for every day that smaller companies can't resume their business, they're putting their existence at risk. So in terms of education, and next slide, please. Your customers are most likely already aware of these risks. A recent cloud user survey by Frost & Sullivan showed that 84% of businesses cite that a top business goal is improving their business continuity. This is a strong market driver. Improving business continuity is a key topic that can lead to several discussions with decision makers within your customer base and prospects. So next slide, please. In addition, almost 60% of businesses express that they find it challenging to design and execute a complete IT backup and recovery solution. One that they can trust in terms that it's not just on paper, but tomorrow morning, if you want to do a drill and see if productivity can be maintained, if operations can be performed at the same level when the systems go down, you can tell that this is a challenge. As well, so if you look at the opportunity for building your own managed cloud offering, knowing that half the businesses perceive the managed cloud as essential to their IT strategy. So in itself, if you include this in your portfolio, you'll make money right away, but you're also preparing the ground for future recurrent revenue. So as we see on the next slide, one of the really interesting angles is the fact that Cloud DR is the perfect product when speaking to your customers that are at the beginning of their cloud journey. So a key reason why organizations use it as a stepping stone is that there's no impact on the day-to-day operations. Servers remain on-prem, they don't have to change processes, users keep doing the same thing, it's all happening in the background. So secondly, there's the cost factor, so you can position cost as an effective and faster recovery at lower cost than traditional DR. Let's say that you would compare to maintaining physical hardware on a different site and keeping everything in sync, the costs would be much higher for less performance. It's also a predictable cost because it's, we'll see later, but it's a monthly subscription where the amounts will not vary. So in that case, you're able to really explain those costs to your customers. Lastly, the great thing about this is that when you set up a disaster recovery as a service, you're establishing trust with your customer and your team becomes comfortable in their knowledge with this. So for instance, you could do a drill and demonstrate how those cloud servers in failover mode perform and can be as fast as what they have on site. So you're setting the expectations and the understanding for later on doing a complete migration of those production servers. And they are hosted on the actual same platform as the real production servers. So when the time comes, it's a really small step. And the beauty is you can even use that same tool, Veeam Cloud Connect Replication, to do that migration. All right, so in terms of disasters, when you look around all the ads, all the marketing, you will see significant events like having a tornado or having a flooding or fire that take the entire sites down. Well, the thing is that maybe it's the images are more interesting from a marketing standpoint, but in real life, what happens is that it's a common outage at VM level that happens. It's really granular. So let's say the SMB has 5 servers. One of them goes down due to application errors, due to OS configuration or patching issues. And this machine can affect the entire environment and they will lose the continuity at that front, but it's not because of a natural disaster per se. So because of this, the ability to fail over a single VM is critical, as this is where you need to reset connectivity of the entire environment in hybrid mode. So while you have some servers still on-prem, others in the cloud temporarily, and that's the beauty of Veeam, as we'll see just a bit later. So in addition to choosing the tool, you have to select your partner carefully because there are many criteria for this. So as we can see on the next graph, of course, the margin is one of the top ones. You want to have a strong partner program that will give you discounts based on your own selling success. That's a given, but also the ability to white label your service, to understand the shared responsibility between you and your customers and a provider like SherWeb, and understanding the MSP ecosystem, what tools you're using right now, how will you rebill, reinvoice those products to your customers. So on that front, when you look at where SherWeb is going, next slide, please. Just quick numbers, but the company is basically in hyper growth mode, having reached over 5,000 partners in North America that are serving over 40,000 clients. And just last month, SherWeb won the award of SMC, so Small, Medium, and Corporate Scale Indirect Partner of the Year from Microsoft. So the company is really doing well because of how it helps its partners, as we can see on the next slide, with the full motion to win deals. So when you work on an opportunity, you have access to a pre-sales team made of technical SMEs that can help you build your quote, validate what you're offering. Then you have access to a marketing engine. You have the most sophisticated billing platform, and all professional services, if needed, around this to help you win those deals. So in addition, and last I would say, but not least, from a technical standpoint, those replicas that you will be creating, how much confidence do you have that if you run them in failover mode, they will be as fast and they will be really helping the continuity, or will they fail in delivering on performance? So in the case of SherWeb, those replicas are hosted on Performance Cloud, which is a product that has been around for several years with thousands of production workloads that are running on it for SMBs, but also much larger companies too. So because of this, you also are relying on a team of experts in the compute, network, and storage areas. And they can help as well at the pre-sales and be involved for larger deals, but also for escalation 24/7 should you have issues with this. And lastly, in terms of Veeam, so SherWeb and Veeam have been working together for many years. We have certified experts here, including Danny, who's on the call and will be taking some of your questions at the end. So this is not something new. For example, Veeam Cloud Connect Backup has been offered for several years. We have quite a lot of workloads that are using this, plus it's used internally as well for infrastructure. So in a nutshell, this sets the context for selling Cloud DR and why partnering with SherWeb is a strategic choice to build your MSP offering. Now let's move on to the part I'm sure you'll be the most excited about, is seeing VCCR in action and how easy it is to use this tool. So Justin, now over to you for a live demo.
Sure, I'll do a little introduction first. So thank you, Eric. Now we'll continue with the second presenter, Justin Guru from Veeam. So Eric and I have been working closely with Justin for some time now. So Justin's one of the most knowledgeable system engineers at Veeam and has over 10 years of experience in project engineering, sales engineering, and system engineering. So we're very, very honored to have him here with us today, presenting a Veeam demo to show you how easy it is to use the platform. So Justin, I'm just gonna hand it over to you and give you access so you can actually show everyone such a great demo. All right.
Great. Sounds good. Yep. Send it this way and I'll share it on my screen. All right. Are you able to see my slide deck?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm not going to slide wear you to death. Just a couple slides before we dive into the demo, just to kind of give you a high-level overview of how all this works. So let's just kind of start off at the high level here. So from an architecture perspective, what we're working with is two sides of this. So on the left-hand side, we have the VBR installs, and when I say VBR, I mean Veeam Backup Replication installs on the customer site, which are going to be sending replicas over to the Backup Replication Cloud Connect server on the SP side. And then from there, we're going to have different hardware plans that are assigned to each customer. Now, what exactly is a hardware plan? So a hardware plan is just a pool of resources that are assigned to a specific customer to use in event of a failover scenario. If you're familiar with the resource pool in VMware, then this is pretty similar. So what the service provider is doing is dedicating a certain amount of CPU, RAM, storage, and VLANs that a customer can utilize in the event of a failover so that they aren't competing with resources from other customers. They have their own dedicated resource pool to leverage when you are in a disaster recovery scenario. Now, let's kind of look at this from how it works from a 10,000-foot view. So what we're doing is we're taking these production VMs, syncing them to the DR side. So we're going to do an initial full, and then we're going to do increments from there. And then they're going to be fully rehydrated. So essentially, they're just warm standby powered off VMs that we can boot up on demand and re-IP and things like that so you can get access to them. Now, I should also note we do have the option for WAN acceleration. Really, it just means we're doing some global deduplication on the source side, and we're keeping a global cache on the target side to make sure that you don't have to send as many blocks over. But again, trying to keep this very high level. Just know you can improve your transfer speeds with it. Now, let's go through an actual failover scenario. So initially, you'll have all of your VMs on your production side of this equation. Then what we do is we replicate them over. So we are creating replicas when we talk about replication. And these, again, will be fully rehydrated, powered off, warm standby. And then you have an error that occurs. So this could be an individual VM that goes down, or in this particular slide, we're looking at a full site failover, but it applies to both scenarios. So what we then do is we initiate a failover plan. So we'll bring up a certain VM first, wait a certain amount of time, bring up the next one, wait a certain amount of time, and that's just to avoid any race conditions or dependencies between the VMs, so we can make sure they come up in a graceful order and everything's working as they need to. Oh, sorry, let me go back. And I should also make note of, once you've sort of recovered your production side of things, we are keeping a delta of all the changes that have occurred for these VMs, and we can sync those back to the production side. So it's really passing the ball back and forth, and you just migrate your users as necessary. Now, how this is facilitated is we have a network extension appliance that we install on both the tenant side as well as the cloud side. So what this is it's really just a lightweight Linux-based VM that we put on your host. So you'll see that there's a tenant side one, and there's also a corresponding SP side one. And they're going to go through and make sure that both networks can talk to each other, regardless of whether it's a partial or a full failover. So let's kind of drill into the tenant side. So what we've got here is the the network extension appliance on the tenant side to route requests between production VMs on the source host and VM replicas on the cloud host after a partial site failover. The network extension appliance connects to a production network with a network adapter. On the tenant side, a separate network extension appliance must be deployed for each production network. So do make note in this diagram how we have one for each of them. So, and then the tenant can specify settings for the required number of network extension appliances that will be deployed on the source host. So really, just make sure you have one on each of them. By default, it's just going to use DHCP to grab an IP on that same network, but you can go in and set static ones if you prefer. And it kind of handles everything else from handles everything else for you. Now, let's just briefly look at the SP side of the equation. I'm not going to go too deep just because this is sort of on the back end. But basically, we're going to go through and make sure that you have a network extension appliance dedicated to all the different cloud hosts that you need on the infrastructure here. Last two slides, trying to make sure we wrap this up pretty quickly. So if one or several production VMs become corrupted, but the rest of the production site, including the most critical VMs, remain operative, the tenant can perform partial site failover. With a partial site failover, the tenant can quickly recover a corrupted VM by failing over to its replica on the cloud host. Really, all we're doing with the partial failover is what's going to be demonstrated in the lab. A single machine has gone down, and essentially the network extension appliance has extended the network into the SP provider's network. That's really all it's doing. It's just making sure that you have network access to this particular VM. So say this one goes down, we bring it up over here, and the NEA just goes and extends the network so this VM can be seen by the ones that are still in the production environment. Now, with a full failover, where the entire host has gone down, we're essentially just migrating all of our infrastructure onto the SP side. So that's where the network extension appliance becomes essentially a proxy into it. So all of your different VMs can then be assigned public-facing IPs, and you can have access to them from your network. And the same thing occurs where you can do the planned failover where you have certain VMs come up, wait a certain amount of time, and continue on. So from a high level, that's all of it works. If you want a real deep dive into it, just let us know in the questions, and I can send along the corresponding technical docs so you can see what it works like on the back end. But really, it's just making sure that everything works on the same network, and that you can just leverage the tool to accomplish all this without having to use any third-party stuff. So with that, let me dive into my lab, and we'll do a quick demo. And when I say quick, it's going to be pretty quick. So 1 second. Okay, so here is my Veeam server. And let's just go here. So we have our vSphere. So this is the test VM I'm working with. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simulate some sort of, power off scenario, something that became corrupted, whatever it may be. This VM is going down. So we'll give it a second to go down so we can see that it's turned off and it's not any, not lying on this one. So the VM will no longer be up and running. Now, what we've done beforehand is we've created these replication jobs, and it's just specifying which VMs we're going to be sending over to the service provider. And this is going to be done on a set schedule. So you'll initially replicate everything over, and then, every hour, every X number of hours, whatever it may be for your particular scenario, we'll go and sync an increment over there so that you'll have a newer point in time to fail back to. And we can keep multiple points in times. I should make note of that. Okay, looks like it's still powering off. Let me just recycle this. Okay, there we go. Yep. So officially powered off. So we are in a disaster recovery scenario. So what I have to do is come down here under my replicas, And all the ones that are ready, so that just means that we've sent the increments over or whatever it may be, it's in a state where we can just power it on. So all you have to do is just go to your particular VM and say failover now. Now, we do have a couple of options here. So failover now means just bring me back up with the latest increment that I've sent over there. Now, we do also have a planned failover. So if you have like an upcoming maintenance window where you think you might go down for whatever reason, or maybe there's inclement weather and you just want to go to a DR site, we can do a planned failover where we'll force a sync from the production side over to the DR side and then do the failover. So there's a couple of options. Let's just do with the fastest one. So here's the VM. Now, as I mentioned, you can have multiple points in time. So if you want to go back to a certain restore point, you can go and select which one you want. In this case, I'll just go to the latest and greatest. Click next. I'll make sure everything's good. And we can put in a reason here if we want to keep an audit log, production server, VM crash, whatever it may be. Click next, click finish, and that's going to go through and initiate it. Now, this will take about 2 minutes or less. Really, it's just making sure that it can access the other VM. So here we go. We're going to start by processing the server-side settings of the failover. And if we go over here, we can start to monitor this other one to come back up. So it's already started to boot. So you'll note that if I come up here, I was using our ATL ISE Central Win Agent VM. And this is our replica version. So that just got powered on. Here comes the network extension appliance. So again, that's its own little thing. And we can see them start to come up. Now, if we pivot back over here, looks like it's still working on that. Again, it should take about a minute or two. Looks like it's booting. Okay, it's got the IP, so we have the same IP as before. Any minute now. Bear with me. It is a, so I will say this is Veeam's infrastructure. SherWeb's is much more robust than our own. This is my lab environment. There we go, processing the client ones. Okay, here goes the appliance. About 50 seconds away from this being complete. Let's just go check over here. Okay, and we've got the desktop. So if I just want to launch this off, just to show I can get to it, and here it is. Now, if we go back here, we'll have a couple of options, and it's just kind of doing the housekeeping at this point. So you'll see that when your replicas are active, they show up under this. Now, you do have a couple of options. So there is the ability to go through and undo your failover. So for whatever reason, your VM crashed, you failed over to the DR side just to be safe, and then you went and checked that VM and just need to be rebooted for whatever it may be. In that case, we could go and undo our failover, and what it's going to do there is this is not going to track any of the blocks that have changed, if any have changed. If you want to do that, we have a failback to production option. So we'll keep a delta of all the changes that have occurred, send those back over, merge those in with the blocks that are existing, and then boot that VM up, and then everyone transfers back over to that. That's pretty much all it takes. Anything else on this particular demo you guys wanted to see while I had this up? Because that's pretty much all I got. I'm just going to fail back at this point if there's no particular questions.
Okay, cool. No problem. I can bring it back.
Okay. Yep, that's about it. So yeah, really it's just sending the ball from the production to the DR side, capturing the changes, and sending it back when we're all said and done. And with that, speaking of sending it back, I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, thank you very much, Justin, for this demo. So as we saw, Cloud Connect Recovery is a perfect solution for you to include a Cloud DR offering into your portfolio and SherWeb the perfect partner to build it. Now, let's quickly look at what you can use, what you can leverage now to get started. So on the next slide, we'll see that we have a cost estimator that you can use on the website directly. So very simple to understand how many VMs do you want to replicate for this one customer, and what's the total space that will be required to replicate. With these two items, you get your monthly subscription fee. You can see $420 on that example. To this, you can subtract your partner discount with SherWeb, If you speak with your account manager, you will see what are the tiers in terms of volume selling overall with SherWeb. So this is as simple as it gets in terms of building a sub and then just marking it up to your customer. But on the web page, you will also find on the next page the estimation for going into failover mode, because the question will be, all right, I have a disaster or I need to take the machines off of production for 2 days. What will be my cost? So in that case, this is where from the plan that Justin was referring to, how many vCPUs do you need and how much RAM do you want to use in total across those VMs to run them? And here the pricing is that of our regular Performance Cloud product. So you can see again what would be the hourly fee in the failover mode. And here too, the partner discounts will apply as you calculate your cost for this. All right, so what are the steps for selling? So it's very simple. First step, let's say you have an opportunity, you have a customer that you want to offer disaster recovery. So you will get in touch with your account manager at SherWeb, provide your requirements, basically 4 pieces of information, the number of VMs, the space we talked about, and then is it VMware or Hyper-V platform, and then number of vCPUs and total RAM for failover. Soon after, you will get from the SherWeb delivery team a communication where you'll get your credentials for your customer's account, and also you'll be able from that stage to go into Veeam product, enter those credentials, and set the replication job, which will look just like what Justin showed here. And that's it, you're good to go. The replica will start. There's the option to seed from a physical media as well, if needed. And then from there, you will be able to follow up on the monthly billing in the portal, just an example, but you will see those 2 line items here, storage and VM license with the quantity. So every month you can see for your customers the items that you can rebill on your side. We have integration from that platform to ConnectWise, Autotasks, and other PSAs coming, so you can automate this transfer and your markup too. So that's a really simple overview of the process. Now we'll go back to Dwayne to talk about some of the initiatives to help you getting started selling disaster recovery.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Erik. Thank you much for Erik and Justin. But just before we get into the questions, I'm just going to mention a few special offers. So one, if you want to take advantage of these offers, the code word is going to be Veeam, which is going to be VEEAM. If you type that into your question or chat box, what we'll do, we'll end up give you a free one-on-one consultation to show exactly how you can save money and grow your business with SherWeb. Another thing that we are going to be offering is the Veeam Cloud Connect Ultimate Reseller Toolkit. So that's going to have everything that you're going to need to do presentations to your clients to show them exactly how you're going to benefit from using Veeam for their disaster recovery as a service. In there's going to be sale pitches, there's going to be how to get the conversation started. There's going to be a calculator as well, and there's additional information there to let you know how to sharpen your skills and how to actually close the deal. And also what we're going to be doing for exclusive SherWeb promotion, as we mentioned, some of the most expensive part of this is the storage cost. And what we're going to be doing, depending on if you're doing the replication or just the backup, we're going to give you 35 to 40% off the storage cost. So if you just think about that and think about your margins, there's going to be some extensive savings there for you guys, and it could generate some revenue there as well. So like I said, type in the word Veeam into the chat box and we'll get back to you. Also, for the people on the call who aren't our partner yet, it's very easy to become one of our partners. All you have to do is just visit our website, go to sherweb.com. There's going to be a button that says join, or you could just go directly to /start partner, choose the program that fits you. It's free to join. All you need is a valid credit card, and you'll be able to join right away. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to start getting to some of the questions. So I hope you guys are ready. So one of the questions that came up is, what's the benefit of using Veeam versus the Azure site recovery?
Okay, Danny, is it one that you would like or Justin to take on?
Yeah, so I'd say the benefit of that is you can go through and orchestrate everything. And bear with me, I'm not super familiar with that, so I'll let Danny comment on Azure itself. But from my perspective, it's easier to maintain. You're controlling everything yourself. You have additional options above and beyond just replication. You can use it for sourcing backup files and application data and things like that with our Explorer. So there's a whole wealth of tools that come with the backup replication suite above and beyond just the pure failover that you're going to be utilizing in this scenario, which Azure is not quite as integrated with.
Yeah, I think one of the things it's pretty much easier too. I got another question here. It says when it goes down and you have 25 users, what is the speed like? So I assume how long would it take to come back?
Well, really, it's just booting the VM for the most part. There's going to be a little bit of a handshake beforehand. So if you are booting, 25, 50 VMs at a time, that will come up sequentially based upon the failover plan. But, it's one of those things where it's going to be relatively quick. It's going to depend upon your specific scenario. But like you saw in the demo, it took about 2 minutes for that VM to come up. So based upon your VMs and all that stuff, it'll be within a couple minutes.
Okay, cool. I got another question over here. So is this just for replication? Is this being able to send backup copy jobs to the cloud as a separate item?
So that is a functionality you'd have with the product. Danny, are you guys, I assume you're doing the backup copy jobs as well. I think you led off with that. So I assume that's part of this offer as well, or is that a separate thing?
Yeah, it's a separate product offer, but it's the exact same way to proceed in terms of processing with this. So it's a Veeam Cloud Connect backup that is in our online store as well. Yeah.
So I will say, just from an end user perspective, when you go through and add SherWeb as a service provider, any backup repositories that you've been assigned will be automatically created for you, and you can leverage those in your backup copy jobs. And much the same way, it's going to create the replication resources for you. So from the front end, it's just seamless. It's just a normal backup copy job, and say send it over to SherWeb, you're good to go.
Okay, cool. I got a question from Tony. Does Veeam work for non-virtual machines? What about physical servers or PCs?
So we do have the ability to back them up. However, for instant recoveries, it is sort of a hypervisor thing with the VMs for the failovers like that. Now, we can protect those machines with agents. We have instant virtualization, so we could do P2V to Hyper-V. We could do guest file restores and application item restores. So there's a lot of options there. It's just not able to do replication because we do need to do host to host, essentially.
Okay, cool. I have if a customer wants to back up into their Cloud Connect, is it possible to pre-stage the data, or will this require 2 backup and recovery servers?
There is the ability, so a couple different ways. So if you've already done a backup copy job into SherWeb's infrastructure, we can use that as a replica seed and then just use that to send an increment on top of it. Or alternatively, there is a way to do essentially a backup copy job to a local direct attached device, sneakerware that on the back end, put that in the proper repository, and then use that as a source. So if you do have any uplink issues, we have ways of getting around that.
Okay, cool. What about RTOs and RPOs?
It really comes down to what your particular SLA is. So for just for people that don't know, RTO is a recovery time objective. So that's how soon you need to be back up and running. So, if you need to be back up and running within a couple minutes, that's when you'd be doing the replication. RPO is the recovery point objective, and that's where it comes into the different points of time that we can go back into. So with the replication, since you're syncing it on a set schedule, we do recommend keeping more than one copy, just in case you encounter a virus on your production network. We happen to do a backup at that point in time and send the replica over. That gives you multiple points in time that you can go back into. But we try to set the RPO as low as we can based upon your size of the VM, the bandwidth, and things like that.
Okay, cool. Let me see right here. Can you describe your environment and how it's protected to ensure it's always be available when I need for a failover?
Yeah. So on this one, maybe I don't know if Danny, you can take the line for this one. And maybe Danny hasn't joined yet. Yes. Yes, you're here.
Okay, I'm there. All right, so for the, you can hear me well, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfectly. So for the infrastructure part, basically it's the same DR site as ours, and we do have dedicated servers for, well, actually it's a dedicated infrastructure for the Veeam Cloud Connect replication, both Hyper-V and VMware. and it's the storage is the same level of storage that we use for our cloud offering. So it's basically a separate site, and everything is highly available at the same degree as every other products we have. So it's the same level of service represented for Veeam Cloud Connect Replication.
Thank you.
Perfect. So I do another question just came in from Lonnie. So when the source is down and Replica is active, what mechanisms do you put in place for each workstation user to access the replicas? RDP pre-configured on their desktop or anything else?
Yeah, so it should be, so if you're just doing a partial failover, it should just be the same IP it was on before. We're just going to extend the network into a separate environment, so that everything's still network accessible on your end. Shouldn't change. Now, with a full failover, there will be publicly assigned IP addresses, just so you can get in that way. So it really depends upon the scenario. And we can send the tech docs on how that works if you want to see how it works on the back end.
Yeah, we did get a couple of questions for the technical docs, so if you could send that to me, I'll be able to send them over to them as well.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do it right after this call.
I got another question here that was kind of wanted to compare you with Dato's system. Do you have any, I guess, ways why you're better than Dato, I guess?
I'm not super familiar with them outside of just occasionally encountering them with MSPs are swapping from them. A lot of things I hear is they don't like being locked into a particular set of hardware. I do know our replication is a bit more easier and intuitive to use. I'm not quite sure exactly how theirs works on the back end. But yeah, mostly ease of use and not being locked into a particular vendor and all that good stuff.
Okay, perfect. Cool. All right, no problem. I've seen a lot of requests for copy of the deck and copy more of the tech docs. So we're just going to let everybody know. Definitely after the presentation, once we're going to have the recorded, we'll send you a recording of the demo. Of the presentation. Plus, we'll also include the tech docs at the same time when we send it out to you. If there's any other additional questions out there, we'll just wait a couple of seconds to see if anybody wants to put anything in there.
If I may add a little point, when we speak about the network extension appliance, we haven't talked a bit much and we haven't been technical, but it's really something that is built into Veeam and it's easily deployable. So it's not a piece of software that you have to deeply configure and require a lot of time, a lot of testing. It's basically a built-in device that is deployed on your environment, and it's pretty much next and finish.
And that covers the out-of-the-box connectivity, right? The fact that if one machine on a partial failover fails, it will properly communicate with the other ones in that case without hours spent on configuration for this, presumably.
Yes, exactly. There's the failover plan that is absolutely required to be configured. Like I said, it's pretty easy. It's built in, but you do really have to do it before activating a DR plan. So this is something you have to plan for. So every services, ports, and so on has to be configured, but it's all through the really easy console that Veeam is.
Great. One more question did come in. Is this available for any other virtual platform such as VirtualBox?
So Veeam only works with VMware paid for, like enterprise version, and Hyper-V currently. So we don't have a way to work with VirtualBox or other non-supported hypervisors. We can put agents into them, but then you're looking at just backups at that point, just because we don't have the hypervisor level access that we'd be looking for.
Okay, cool. So I got another question. So is the extension appliance that handles network redirection?
Yeah, that's what's facilitating everything. Yeah, when we say network extension appliance, it really is just extending the network from the customer side to the service provider side. And I think the docs will kind of elucidate how that works exactly.
Awesome, great. So I'll just leave a couple seconds and see if there any additional comes in. But in the meantime, while other questions are going to come in, I just want to, personally invite everyone who's on this call to our Accelerate event. It's our Cloud Summit, which will be hosted in Montreal from October 9th to 11th, 2019. Right there, you'll be able to, learn, network, and grow. And you'll be able to build, proven sales and marketing best practices, including concrete tools and resources. So one of the great things that there, you're going to be able to Learn strategic business growth plans to supercharge your managed service offerings and transform your cloud business. And you're going to be able to learn about new trends in tech, exclusive new products and offers, plus you'll learn about SherWeb's roadmap for 2020. So as I'm looking through there, it doesn't seem like there be any more questions there. So basically what I would just like to say is, thank you guys and thank you everyone. We truly appreciate you guys joining us today. As I mentioned earlier, we are offering a free consultation from SherWeb addressing your questions and needs about how MSPs can make more money selling disaster recovery as a service. All you need to do is type Veeam, V-E-E-A-M, in the chat box or the question box, and we'll contact you to set up a time for your free consultation and provide you with the tools that you would need. I encourage you guys to take advantage of this opportunity. It's worth thousands of dollars, and thanks again for joining us today, and we'll talk to you next time. So thank you very much, Eric. Thank you very much, Justin. Thank you very much, Danny.
Yes,
thank you very
thanks,
much.
everyone. Okay, have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye.